All right, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Hopefully the routine of camp, y'all are getting enough information, and appreciate most of y'all being out there today. Um, Schedule wise, just kind of hit kind of how we're doing this. So Monday was a medium type day for us. Yesterday we were in the scrimmage, or we didn't scrimmage. We were in the stadium. I should have said stadium. A lot of 11 on 11 work. We tackled yesterday for the first time. That was our first time in full pads. Today, we were on what we call our spider pads and our helmets. And this was a low practice for us. Anytime we're low, last time you saw us was Saturday. That was a low too. A lot of red zone and kind of light box work where there's not a whole bunch of banging. We try to limit the running on the skill guys, but we're getting a lot of good work in. And situationally, we've been intentional about working red zone, what we call the score zone, from the 15 to about the 6. Really been intentional on that, both sides of the ball. That was the fifth time that we've worked this. Today was practice 7, but the fifth time we've really worked in the red zone. And that's really a point of emphasis for us. Like offensively, did a lot of good things. We got to score more touchdowns down there. And then defensively, we got to get some takeaways. We got to make people kick down there. So it's been a point of emphasis. I want to kind of and then tomorrow is a non-practice day. Friday will be kind of a normal practice, and then we'll go Saturday, and that'll be a scrimmage. And so we're going to treat it as game-like as possible. And so we're going to get after it pretty good on Saturday. Then Sunday's another non-practice day. So that's kind of what the next few days look like. I want to say this, kind of going backwards since the first time I've talked to you all in a few days, is I thought Fan Day was really well. I commend our people. Thought they did a really nice job with that. A lot of a good turnout. Appreciate the fans. Enjoy the kids. A lot of smiles. That's always a real positive. I think it's really important for our players to get exposure. To get a lot of people out in the state that come. It's important that we don't charge. And our players, especially our newcomers, get a chance for the first time to see what it means to people. And so that was real positive. We have a lot of our players' families here also. It's a huge part of success is the people behind our players. And so we had over 500 plus family members that had a meal with us on Saturday. And I think it's important too is there's a lot of intermingling there between players' families, standing in line, waiting for autographs with our fans. These guys are 18 to 22, 23, most of them, and they're approaching manhood and really but at the end of the day, like every one of those players is somebody's son, somebody's nephew, somebody's grandchild. I think sometimes we forget that on social media, but I think Family Day and Fan Day kind of the interaction there is really important. And so I thought that went well. And that's really, I wanted to open it up for questions, so I didn't want to eat up a whole lot of time. Those are the things I wanted to talk about. So, Greg, get us started here.
So, we get to see a lot of passing drill stuff when we're out there. So your thoughts on both sides of the football. How are you throwing it offensively? How are you defending it defensively?
Yeah, work in progress in both, and I would say that just for our whole football team, work in progress. I'll start on defense. We have more able bodies and more athletic. I've been really impressed with our two corners that are running with the ones right now. That's Aiden Garnes, just a really high-level football player. He's a little thin, but, man, he's competitive. He's strong for his size. He can run, really smart. He makes a lot of really good football plays. And then Garnett Hollis is a guy, one of the bigger kids we've had playing outside for us. And he's got really good length. He can press, gives us the ability to press probably more than we have. And he's really came on. So I like those guys. We've been moving Aubrey around it. He's playing spear for us. He's playing high safety. And then those have been kind of the mainstays. And then we got Anthony Wilson. He didn't practice today. He'll be back pretty soon. But I think he's made a really big step for us. He had a really nice tackle on open field against Jaheim yesterday. And that's a tough task, and he did it twice. And so I'm really pleased with where he's at. And now we need some other guys to step up. And we haven't had the consistency with some of those other guys that we need. Like we need a Jaheim Joseph. We need a KK to come on. We need the Jackson brothers to come on. We need TJ Crandall to come on. I think Keon Washington's been a pleasant surprise. You all saw us today. When we go to the 2 spot, a lot of people get reps. And so it gives opportunity to people that to show that they're ready or show that they're not. And so we're in the process of evaluating that. I like our receiver group. I think that all those guys that were here with us last year and played a lot of football have made a definitive step. And you can see Preston Fox is a lot stronger. That's a credit to what he's done winter and summer. And then Traylon Ray and Rodney Gallagher and Hudson Clement are just following the kind of a natural progression. And then Jaden Bray is he and Justin Robinson are going to add an element for us. And they just got to learn what to do and how we play and what our expectations are. But they're going to play a role. And then Day Farmer has been he's elite with the ball in his hands. So we got to figure out ways how to use him.
Go into Farmer a little bit more because we see him get a lot of quality reps. So it looks like he's got a role. How good can he be?
Well, I think he's a guy that he looks thin, but he plays really strong. And Mike was really impressed this summer with, he's in the mid 160s. He'll probably play at 170 by the time we get to the season. But he's got twitch, and he's got some explosiveness, and he's a lot stronger than maybe his body type looks, which is going to give him the ability to play and not just be a guy that goes in there when we're going to get him the ball or be a decoy. He can block on the perimeter and those type of things. He's made several competitive plays. He was good yesterday in our 11-on-11 work. And so, excited about him. We liked him in recruiting. We beat a lot of people for him. And so he's going to earn some playing time if he continues this.
You mentioned Wilson, some of the other guys that were out today. They expect to back soon as well?
Yeah. So we went light on Wyatt today, and really everybody's treated fairly. Not all people are equal, so like we're giving him a little bit of time. But he'll be fine. And then Wilson, he'll be out a couple days. He should be back. Trey Lathan had a little hand deal, but he'll be back to Friday when we go. So nothing to this point to be overly concerned about.
Coach, are you encouraged because of how physical? You guys got physical yesterday.
I think after Saturday and beyond is the real test. That's what I think. Yesterday we went out there and it's been warm, which I welcome that. Like we need some heat, like we need some adversity. So it's been warm. Maybe I don't know. Most of you guys are local, so you would tell me if it's uncharacteristically warm or not. It feels like that to me, but I'm for it. And so, I think we went in the stadium, had some good energy yesterday. That's first time tackling. Now, can we show up on Friday and be physical? Can we go back to back in the stadium on Saturday? And do we have most of our team that's continuing to show up? The best kind of ability is availability. So can we continue to stay available all the way through the 21st?
When you talk about being physical, I think we always kind of go to tackling first. But what's it like from the offensive side? Because CJ was talking about that a little bit on Monday, about like just finishing runs and like that's how.
Yeah, there's a physical component to every position offensively. It starts with your offensive line, and it's really how you use your hands. Are you striking people with your hands? Like in football, these are legal weapons, your hands. And you better be able to strike with them, and that's something we spend a lot of time on. And then you got to be able to finish. The only way you finish blocks is having extreme pad level and having your hands inside. And so that's the way O-line, tight ends, very similar. We ask our tight ends to do a lot. Tight ends, similar to O-line, but also receivers, is being physical at the top of your routes. Like in the Big 12, they're going to let them play. So there's going to be a lot of grabbing at the top of the routes, and you better be physical. We call it a junction point. When two forces are meeting, who's going to win that junction point? And receivers got to be physical, and they've got to take the attack to the DB. And then blocking on the perimeter. And it goes back to, again, striking with your hands, keeping your elbows inside. And then defensively, it's not only tackling, but it's also block destruction. So we spend a lot of time, whether I'm a D lineman, linebacker that's got to take on blockers and then get them off, or on the perimeter, if it's a DB that's got to destruct a perimeter block. And so there's various elements of it.
Just going back to Aubrey a little bit, because we talked to him the other day. he talked about a conversation with you guys about kind of wanting to show more and the kind of help lead to maybe this position change. For you, what kind of led to you wanting to do this with Aubrey, change things up for him in his last year, more need, more something you saw in him, and what do you expect from him? Because to take a phrase from you, you're not easing into this thing. With Penn State.
So with Aubrey, I think his skill set, he's going to play both. He's still going to play his what I call hash safety, and he's going to play we call a spear. It's really a nickel position. We'll bounce him back. Some of it will be personnel based, what the offense is doing. Some of it will be who we want to get on the field. You know, if we want to play with 3 linebackers, he'll probably go back to safety. If we want to play with 5 DBs, then he'll probably be in at spear. So, and that'll be game by game. And he's splitting his reps there, and he's going to continue to split his reps. The thing that he's shown, and some of this has been in some dime packages where we've used him down there at that position, is he's shown the ability to play man coverage. He's shown the ability to be a difficult block on the perimeter. And then he will tackle. He's a willing tackler, and he's a plus blitzer. And so I think those things have really, and we have more team speeds that can play in the backfield that allows him to come up and play closer to the ball some.
You have all this continuity on offense, and you have stuff you want to work on, like you said, red zone, for example. I'm sure there's other things. What's the balance between like trying to add new stuff to be better, to make a difference, or just doing what you've done and just be better at it? You don't want to do too much the same, but you don't want to do too much too different.
So I think that you have to evolve year to year, you know. So if we go out and run the exact same stuff that we did last year, the people that we play, especially early on, are working that a lot. And as football's gone, college football's gone more year round, they're working on that, you know, spring, summer, fall camp. So I think you have to evolve. You know, we've got core principles we believe in. How we decorate stuff up, it's got to change. And the other thing too is you're always a little bit different. You know, Zach's gone. Devin Carter allowed us to do some things last year, and because he was older, you know, a guy that played 4 years. So those guys are not here. And Doug Nestor, who played a lot of football, those guys are not here. So we've got to figure out what the strengths of some of these new guys are, especially at wideout. We're improved there. Most of the guys that were productive are a year older. We've added some pieces that have been productive at other places. And so I think it's, you know, really philosophically, you have to say, all right, do you want to be do a little bit of everything, or do you want to be really good at some of your core principles? What we've made the determination is we want to be really good at some core concepts, both in the run game and the pass game, and then we want to be able to present those in multiple ways. And right now we're a run-first team, and so we want to marry up everything we're doing in the run game with our pass concepts.
You got 22 votes in the coaches poll, didn't get in the top 25, got in at the end of last year. Any comments on how that shook out for you?
Nah, I just think it goes back to kind of what I was saying at media days, is if you just look at our resume, how we finished the year, number of quality wins we had a year ago, and what we have coming back on both sides of the ball, with a convincing bowl win, you know, year to year, if you just put blind resumes up, that resume is going to get in the top 25 with 9 wins in a Power 4 conference, with a bowl win, with a returning experience. So what gives, I don't know. You know, and that's, I think, to me, it goes back to some of our better players, and I've said this on repeat, but I really mean this, is some of our better players are being undervalued, especially Garrett Green. And so you have to go prove them. You have to prove yourself. And unfortunately, in our game, fortunately now, it used to be where these preseason polls really had a lot of merit. Now they're kind of not as much because we've gone to the playoff system rather than just a ranking system.
Talking about changing every year in life, take me through the genesis of putting in a new play. I mean, where does the idea come from? Is it the weakness of an opponent or your strength, or do you spend a lot of time Xing and O'ing yourself? Or
Yeah, so I think different times of the year, personally, I spend a bunch. Now, the good thing is we've got a bunch of just people that make a lot less money than me, but they have better jobs because they just do football all the time. But you know, there's pockets of the year where I do football. So I think the good thing, the good and the bad of this, and this is Bob, this is kind of tied into what Mike was asking, is there's so much more information available. Like I can probably get on my phone, whether it's on Instagram or whether it's on Twitter. I still call it that. I know it's got a new icon, but like, and you can find play after play, and we have access here to every college football game at the FCS and the Power 4 level, have access to every NFL game. And so probably within, if myself, maybe I can't find them all, but if I give 2 to 3 minutes to some of our younger guys, like we can pull any play you want to see up. And YouTube's got a vast collection too. So there's so much more information. There's so many more concepts that you can see than ever before. And so it starts there. You know, if you see a new concept, and you still talk to people in the profession also. So you either see it or you talk to somebody about a new concept, usually watch it on tape. Then how does it fit? Then you install it. There's a little bit of trial and error piece there where you run it in a spring practice or you run it in a fall camp. Then you go back to and look and see how the team, or you call the coach that you got the play from, and you say, hey, I got a question here. Hey, we're having issues with this. What's the answer? Because when you put in something or you decide that you're going to do something, it's not about necessarily the first install. It's about having answers. So when your opponent does something, you got to have the knowledge of what the answer is. Okay, here's the A, what's the B? And so that's kind of how you do it. And then just from a learning standpoint, what we do is we give our guys, like they have an install where they see it visually, they study before the meeting room. We come in, we show it to them, and then we walk through it, and then we jog through it, and then we run through it, and then we watch the film of it, and then we correct it. That's kind of the process. Is there anything new that's like there's probably different ways to do it, but I don't like. I always, y'all have heard me say this now a lot over 6 years. Is I really just believe football's cyclical, you know. And there's so much. We're a gun run team. We run a bunch of read stuff, but if you went back and look at Tubby Raymond at Delaware, like a lot of the concepts are the same. They're a lot of the same. Y'all have heard me say this. My grandfather was a high school coach in the late in the late 40s to the mid 50s. In Owensboro, Kentucky, and he ran the single wing. And there's like all the gun run stuff it's single wing stuff. So I mean, I just think it's cyclical. You know, if you look at last year, like everybody went back to the power T or to the straight T, and we're running that a lot. It goes in cycles, and but I don't, you know, there'll be some new iterations. I'm not sure they'll come from me, but there'll be some new iterations at some point.
Day-to-day farmer, where is he in terms of running the route tree? Sounds like he's good with the ball in his hands, but the more traditional receiver stuff.
With those guys, where he's from, that's what they do. You know, the weather is such where they can play. They do 7-on-7 year round, so you don't necessarily worry about him individually, but just guys with similar backgrounds. You don't really worry about them from a route tree perspective. You more worry about them, you know, at that junction point or off the line of scrimmage, is making sure they can win on the line of scrimmage and win at the junction point, and then learning the other stuff that comes along with playing, in particular blocking on the perimeter, some of the adjustments we do pre-snap. That's where the bigger learning curve is.
What's maybe a couple things you've learned about your team in the first week of practice that you didn't know a week ago at this time?
You know, I think that is they're a group that really wants to do well. They're a group that I think that we've got to consistently challenge them. You know, y'all asked about schedule the other day. It's formidable, right? And so they have to understand, why are we having, and it goes back to the why, and I think it's really important that you explain the why repeatedly. But it is really, really important that we have a physical camp and we do more 11-on-11 good on good than we maybe have ever done. And the reason is because, man, we've got to be significantly better than we were on the first game a year ago. to give us ourselves a chance. And then we've got to be ready when we enter conference play and we play the backyard brawl, and then we get into conference play, because we are playing an extremely physical schedule. If you look at the teams, not just the teams, but how do they play? What's the style they play? So we've got to prepare for this. And fall camp's about preparing for the season. And so we've got to continue just to consistently challenge this group.
Discuss a little bit how you have evolved as a head coach.
Somebody asked that the other day. I don't know. It's hard to look kind of introspectively and decide how you've evolved. I think it's age more than anything. I think if you're living the right way, you should attain wisdom, right, as you get a little older. So I'll say this, like, just because it's on the forefront of my mind, but how we approach camp and the science behind it has significantly evolved over the tenure of 10 years now being a head coach. Is how we set up our camp day has significantly evolved, where I really feel like that we're doing a better job teaching our guys now than we did several years back. The other thing too is I think the autonomy within our staff is allowing our coaches to coach, and the ideas they're bringing, whether it's from an administrative standpoint, offense, defense, special teams, there's autonomy and ownership within the given, or not them earning that and then allowing them to do that. That's probably some aspects.
Coach, you open up against Penn State. Is that a great first test for you? Would you prefer that matchup a little later in the season? How are you feeling about that heading into the opener?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is at this point. I think it's a great showcase game, and so, I think if you asked any coach, we'd love to ease into it, right? And we've played a couple of FCS first games, and those are positive. You learn a little bit more about your team, and then before you play maybe a rivalry game. But that's not what we have, so it's like, it is what it is. Like, we play Penn State; they're top 10 team in the country. I was looking at a bunch of draft boards. I went over this with our team the other day. There's a whole lot of Penn State guys listed, and so. At 12, probably, I don't know, Fox probably going to kick it off 12:06, 12:07, and on August 31st, and we better be ready. And it doesn't matter what I would like for it to be, or who I'd like for it to be against. It doesn't matter. We play Penn State, and the Fox crew is going to be here, and we got to perform. And the expectation is that we will, and we'll perform at a high level.
And how many reps are you giving him defense and returning wise?
So returning wise, he's probably a year away from that if we stay healthy. But he's definitely our second guy back there at the punt return. I'm really proud of how he's really matured and improved and really taken on that responsibility over a year and a half now. But he's probably a year away if Preston. I really think Preston is elite at that, and maybe he can do it at the next level. And so Rodney's probably a year away from that. We eased it in 4 days. The first 4 days, we didn't do a whole lot with him on defense. This week, we've amped it up and fully expect him to play snaps on both sides of the ball. Fully expected. Mike?
Kind of related to what you touched on with adding to the offense, whatever, but what did bringing Chad in as a coordinator, adding him and his ideas, like?
Yeah, so first of all, he's extremely organized and he's got great energy, right? And so for me, going back and calling the plays, like, you learn, like, and I go back on this, and I think I've said this to you all before, but I was just thinking about this. I was talking to another head coach a couple nights ago on my way home, and if you go back to the 22 season we had, and where I didn't call plays, like, I wouldn't go back and do that over. Like, that was a great learning experience for me. Because when we came back in 23, did it significantly better, and then I really believe we'll make another improvement in 24. And so what Chad does is like, first of all, he runs every unit meeting. We meet every day in season. He meets with the offense. Every day in fall camp, he meets with the offense, and he does an excellent job of communicating in a team setting what our standards are offensively, what our expectations are offensively, and he's really attention to detail, and he can motivate. And he's done a really good job of having relationships across the offensive. And then the other thing he does from an organization standpoint, he organizes everybody's ideas. And we've organized our offensive staff as such, where Chad and I have been together for a long time now. Matt Moore and I have been together for a long time now. And then we've got 3 young guys in the room coaching positions, and then we've got another group that is really bright, that really contribute ideas, and it's really a culmination of everyone's kind of thoughts. And I may call it on the game in the game, but it's really a culmination of everyone within that offensive room's thoughts and beliefs. But Chad does a great job organizing that, and so he's done tremendous. I really believe that he's going to be a head football coach, and I think he'll be one that's really successful. And it's been kind of fun to watch his growth within this role over the last 2 years.
Anything though, I mean, just you guys were so good running the ball, and he's the running backs coach last year. I can't imagine that that's a coincidence.
No,
Did
it's
he add
not.
Things?
Yeah, it's not. And I think it goes back. It's a player's game still. So we recruited and developed offensive linemen, running backs, tight ends. So that's a big piece of it too. And then he and Matt have a really good working relationship. And Jens Danielson plays a huge role in our run game too. And so all those combined, and we figured out, and this is a credit to Chad too, is we figured out how to practice the run game, and we've got really clean perimeter rules. He does a good job having rules that skill guys can follow, and so that's helped our success as well. I should have said this too, is have you updated the website yet? We've kind of changed some titles. Yeah. So y'all probably noticed this. If not, then you can get on there. We've changed some titles to echo some of the new coaching rules that have taken place here in the last month. And so you can get on and check those out, and then we can talk about those in the next time.
You mentioned Zach being gone. What do you lose with his departure, and what's it going to take? Have you filled that hole, and what's it going to take for the next person to move into that role?
Yeah. So I see your Steelers hat there. So Monty stood up here, and so I could go on about that for a long time. Bottom line is he's a great player. Changed our program, which I've said publicly a lot. I miss him at practice just because I never had to worry. I never thought one time in 4 years, is Zach Frazier ready to go today? Like, I never thought that, like, one time, right? And so I would have to create ways to get on him. And so I miss him just because he loved to practice and he loved to compete. And so, but with that being said, he's done. He's out of eligibility here. So the challenge is now is, what is this new reiteration of our offensive line look, and how can we be better? Because that's the goal. Like, the reasonable expectation to continue to improve. And Brandon Yates, I'm proud of him. Like, he's taken that role, and he's continued to get better each and every practice through 7. And I like the guys we have up front. We've got more depth, but we will miss Zach. And 5 years from now, I'm sure I'll say the same thing. All right. Yep, appreciate it. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good one.